Hi, today I'm going to review two different dash cams from Transcend. We have the DrivePro 100 and the DrivePro 200. They're very similar, but there are some small differences between them which I'm going to show you today. Now if you're wondering what a dash cam is, I'll put some sample footage over here. Basically they record while you're driving, so that if you have a crash or something else happens, you know exactly what happened because you have it on camera. Now these turn on automatically when you start your car, so you don't have to worry about remembering to switch them on and off and the rest of the hassle that you'd have with a traditional camera. Now, they come with the power supply, which just plugs into your existing cigarette lighter socket. Alternatively, if you've got USB ports in your car, you could just use a mini USB cable. They also come with a 16GB micro SD card, so basically you're ready to go out of the box. They also include the mounts, of course, for mounting it to your windscreen. Now, how it works is you take your micro SD card, you put it in here, you wire it up to the power, neat the cables all nicely around your car. Every time you start your vehicle, the camera will turn on and start recording. Every time you stop your vehicle, it will turn off. Now I know what you're thinking. The micro SD card is eventually going to fill up. You're going to have to take the videos off, delete them, put the card back. Well, fortunately, you don't have to do that. It actually overwrites the older files automatically. So let's say it records for an hour. It depends on the size of your micro SD card, but let's say it recorded for an hour. It will then start overwriting the beginning of that. So you might be thinking, well, what if I have a crash and then it gets overwritten? Well, these cameras are very clever. They have G sensors built in, so as soon as they detect like a sharp stop or an impact or any kind of high G, it will actually lock the file, so it cannot be deleted from the micro SD card until you unlock it and delete it like that. Aside from that, they also have these red buttons on the side. If you press those, it will immediately lock the file, so you don't have to worry about it being deleted. So how about the specs of these cameras? Well, this is the DrivePro 100, this is the DrivePro 200. Both of them have full 1080p at 30 frames per second, so you know you're going to get a great picture. Both of them have wide-angle lenses. The DrivePro 100 has a 130-degree lens, the DrivePro 200 has a 160 degrees lens, so it is slightly wider on the 200 series. Although the power supplies don't have any label on them, they're basically a 12 or 24 volt down to 5 volt adapter, because this is just regular mini USB. So what that means is that you can use these in your regular vehicle, which is 12 volts, or you can use them in a larger vehicle like a truck, which is typically 24 volts. So that's very useful. Both of these have 2.4-inch screens, which lets you review your footage and also lets you watch while you're driving along. But typically you shouldn't be watching the screen while you're driving. You should either mount it in a place where you can't see it, for example behind your rear view mirror, or use the settings to make the screen turn off after 30 seconds of driving. That way when you're driving you're not going to be distracted looking at the picture. In terms of size, the DrivePro 200 is slightly larger. You can see if I put them side by side, it is a little bit taller and it's a little bit wider here. But there's not much difference between them really. The thickness is, well, about the same really, pretty much the same. Now, my own personal opinion is these are a little bit larger and more noticeable than other dash cams. Which might be a problem depending on where you live and where you leave your car, because if you have this behind your windscreen, it's possible someone's going to see it and they might try to steal it. For me, I have a tinted windscreen, tinted all around, so it's not such a big issue, but in some countries, especially say the UK, where tints are very restricted, you have a clear windscreen and these are very easy to spot. Other dash cams are a little bit less noticeable, so that is something to consider. Aside from the screen, both cameras have their onboard speaker and microphone. That means they're going to be recording audio when you drive along, and when you review your footage, you can listen back to it on the speakers. Now, of course, you can also review the footage on your computer or your TV. There are a few ways of doing this. You can remove the micro SD card and connect that to your computer, or you can connect it straight with a mini USB cable. Although that's not supplied, generally everyone I know has a spare one from either a GoPro camera or an external hard drive or various other gadgets that use mini USB cables. In the case of the DrivePro 200, it also has Wi-Fi, which means that you can review your footage from a smartphone or a tablet or something like that. You just have to install the Transcend application. To me, that's a little bit of a gimmick. I guess it's kind of useful, but for me it's not a big deal. They also have video out, which is S-video out, and they do supply a cable to plug in here. I haven't shown it here because, to be honest, are you really going to use it? I think it's unlikely. In this day and age, it doesn't seem likely you're going to connect it to your TV using an S-video cable, but it does support it and they do supply the cable to do that. With regard to the lenses itself, the DrivePro 200 has a 7-lens glass system and the DrivePro 100 has a 6-glass lens system. To be honest, I'm expecting the cameras to be pretty similar, apart from the angles, because the DrivePro 100 is 130 degrees and the 200 is 160 degrees. But in terms of picture quality, I'm guessing they're going to be about the same, but we'll see later. Now, one thing I didn't realise when I was first looking at these two cameras is that the DrivePro 100 has a built-in battery. The DrivePro 200 does not have a built-in battery. Now you might be thinking, well, why do you need a battery? If it's plugged into your car, it's getting power and it's recording. That's true, but the thing is, what if you have an accident and you want to take the camera out of the windscreen, go outside and walk around the car, look around the scenery to show exactly what happened, where you were, etc. DrivePro 100, unplug it, unclip it from the mount on the windscreen, walk outside and you can continue recording. DrivePro 200, you can't do that. So that's something to bear in mind when you're thinking about which of these cameras to get. Now, as I mentioned briefly earlier, both cameras do have G sensors built in, which means in the case of an impact, it's going to lock those files and they cannot be deleted. They also have these really useful red buttons on the side for locking the file. Now, I have another dash cam where when you want to lock a file, you've got to go through the menu system and it's so difficult, especially if you've had an impact or something. You're not going to have the presence of mind to go through that. And if you have a very small memory card in there, it might actually overwrite before you get a chance to lock it. So that's the great thing about these cameras. They will automatically lock the file in case of a collision, or you've got these handy buttons on the side that can also do it. They're useful, for instance, if someone cuts you up really badly and there's no accident, but you want to record it, make sure it doesn't get deleted by the time you get home, lock the file and you'll be able to grab it later. For anyone curious about how much power the cameras use, I'm measuring the DrivePro 200 through the port-to-power USB power meter, and it's measuring between 2–2.5 watts. Now, of course, that doesn't take into account that when you plug into your car, it's going to be using a 12 volt to 5 volt adapter, so there will be a little bit of losses in this DC to DC converter. I'm now measuring the power of the DrivePro 100, and it's measuring between 2.8 and 3 watts, so it does consume a little bit more power on it. Now, if you're wondering how you mount these in the car, well, they come with these little mounts which have 3M sticky tape on the back. Stick it on your windscreen and that will hold it in place. They're interchangeable between the two cameras, so I'll just plug this one in to show you, for example. So that's now locked into the camera. If you imagine that my windscreen was here, I would peel back this protective coating for the sticky tape, stick it to my windscreen, and that would be recording. You see? So it's very simple. And these 3M tapes will hold through even the bumpiest of rides, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. Now, another option they have is the suction mount, which is your typical, stick on the windscreen, pull it off, stick it on, pull it off. That's very useful if you need to use the camera on different vehicles, or if, for instance, you want an easier way to hide the camera when you park your vehicle. You can unclip the camera from these ones, and it's not too difficult, but I think a suction mount might be a little bit easier. Another useful thing with the suction mounts is that you can buy plastic discs that stick to your dashboard, and then you could actually stick the suction pad like that, and you could have the camera upright like this instead of hanging on your windscreen. So it does offer some alternative options for getting the camera in your car and up and running. So on the note of mounting them, let's go down to the car and install them and see how easy it is to set up. So I'm in the car now. First thing I'm going to do is plug this power adapter into the cigarette lighter socket. Next, I'm going to plug this end into the camera itself. Now, before I even think about sticking this to the windscreen, the first thing I want to do is move it around and see what kind of position I want it in. So I'll turn on the car so we've got power on the camera. You can see the camera's turning on automatically when you start the car or when you turn on the ignition, and we've got a picture here. So I'm going to put it on the windscreen and try and find a good position for where I'd like it. You can see that you do have some movement left and right, up and down. I did just trigger the emergency recording, which is the G sensor. but you can see that you do have a full 360 ball movement. So even if you don't get it quite in the right place, you can adjust it. Now, this is not my car, so I'm not going to be doing a professional install. If you were installing this in your own vehicle, you'd want to run the cables up the sides and maybe under the headlining, just to make sure that it's nice and neat and the cables are out of the way. But since this isn't my vehicle, I'm just going to put it so the cable's falling down like that, and I'm not going to worry too much about that. So peel off the 3M backing tape bit, and that's ready to stick on the windscreen. I'm going to put it around about there, I think. So just push it up against the windscreen, and then try not to put too much pressure on that for a few minutes, just to let it set. Now I can adjust the angle like this. Actually, there you go, I'm quite happy with that. And then you just lock it in with this little nut here. You should probably wait for the tape to really get on there first, but I think that's okay. And you can see now that well, you can't see, but I'll bring the camera closer so you can see what this camera picks up. So now you can see the cameras here. If I turn on the car, the camera turns on. Took a couple of seconds there, but nothing too long, and immediately it starts recording. Now you can see it's a nice wide angle, so that means that even if something happens just to the side of you, or someone comes in like this, you're going to get it all on camera, and it's easily going to show exactly what happened. So now let's take a look at reviewing the footage and changing the settings on the DrivePro 200. DrivePro 100 is essentially the same, except that it doesn't have Wi-Fi. So if you press this button here, it will take you into the settings. You can then change the resolution between 1080 or 720. You can adjust the exposure value. You can set how long the video length of each clip is. You can set the timestamp, whether it's on or off. I disabled it because I don't think it's really necessary, and it does overlap on the video. Voice recording, you can turn it on or turn it off. Loop recording, well, you really should have this. What it means is basically once you fill up the card, it will start to replace videos at the beginning of the card. Volume, just basically your playback and your beeping, etc. Your G sensor, disable low, medium or high. Now on the Transcend 200 I've had to disable it because every time I go over a bump it goes off. Not a problem on the DrivePro 100. Auto turn off display, I've got it set to never, but you probably should set it to after 1 minute so it doesn't distract you while you're driving. Your date time settings, I haven't set these correctly. Date time format, it's simple enough. Language, we won't be changing that. Light frequency, 50 Hz or 60 Hz, you can adjust that, but you probably won't need to. Video out, again, this is specific to the DrivePro 200, which I would never use. Information about the camera and format the card. Upgrade the firmware, restore default. So, simple enough. Now if you want to review your footage, you press this button here. You can see you have video files, protected files. Protected files are ones that the G sensor has been triggered. So let's go into regular video files, and I'll just choose a random one. Okay. You can see playback is immediate, and it's actually pretty good quality. Even at different angles, the screen actually performs quite well. Unlike a lot of screens where when you tilt them off angle, you can't really see it anymore. This screen actually seems to do quite well. It does suffer a little bit on the vertical, but overall it does quite well. You can probably make up the audio as well, which is playing back through the speaker. And you can see you've got an option here to delete it or lock it or pause it. There is no rewind or forwards button, but it's not a big deal. It's only short clips, you can easily replay the whole thing. So overall I'm actually quite happy with the quality of the playback. It's very quick, very responsive, and it's very easy to scroll through your different files. Everything is date time stamped, provided you actually set the details correctly when you set up the camera. Now let's take a look at playback on the phone. Now this could be an Android phone or an Apple phone or tablet. Now the first thing to note is it's only available in the DrivePro 200. Now if you don't already have a blue flashing light here, you press this button once and that will enable the Wi-Fi, and you'll see that it starts flashing blue. Now you go into your system, press Wi-Fi, connect to the DrivePro, and you enter the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, join. Once you've joined, you go and launch the Transcend DrivePro app. You'll have to install this from the App Store beforehand. So let's turn this on its side. Now what you'll see is that it's actually streaming live. And I was actually amazed at how well this performs. Now I have a GoPro which also supports streaming, and it's nowhere near as smooth as the Transcend. You can see here that it's pretty much real time. There's sometimes a few hiccups, but you know, overall it's actually pretty amazing. I'm not sure what you'd use the live view for. Maybe, don't know if you were like a crazy racer or something, but I'm not really sure what else you'd use it for, unless you actually use this as not just a dash cam, but like a studio camera. Now all of the settings that are on the camera itself can also be accessed through the application. For instance, the resolution, exposure value. You can also adjust the Wi-Fi username, the SSID and password, so it's pretty useful. Now to play back, all you have to do is click on the browse button and it will immediately load all of your videos. It takes a couple of seconds, but it's really pretty quick. So you can see here it gives a little preview here of what's inside the clip. Some of these are just blank because I've had the camera laying down, so it's just black. But if we scroll through, we can see some of the driving videos, like this one. If you click it, it will immediately start playing. And it's really smooth and good quality picture. Again, it's much better than, for instance, the GoPro. When I stream video from that, this is much quicker, the quality's better, it's less jerky, it's just better all around. Originally I thought the Wi-Fi feature of the DrivePro 200 was nice, but probably not going to be that great. But after using it, I can say it's actually really superb. I don't know if my camera's even doing justice to just how good quality this is during playback. And let's open another one. Now the options you have are to pause it, play, or to skip forward to the next clip. There is no fast forward or rewind. Even if you hold these buttons down, for example, nothing happens. Now the only thing I have noticed with this is that there's no audio. I've checked the settings and I've checked the playback on the computer and there's audio, but when playing back through the phone application or tablet application, there's no audio, so I don't know what the deal is with that. So hopefully you've reviewed the footage, and I think you'll agree that the DrivePro 200 has better quality. During the day, during the night, there's a lot more detail in the DrivePro 200. Now both of the cameras will give you a good image. You'll be able to read license plates during the day, but the DrivePro 200, it's just superior during the night and during the day. You can really notice the difference. Now the DrivePro 200 does have a little bit of overexposure. Now to be fair, I probably could have edited that in the the settings. They could have lowered the exposure value, and that probably would have fixed that issue. So I earlier in the video said I don't think there'll be much difference between the two cameras in terms of picture quality, but there really is. You know, it's very noticeable. Now, unfortunately, both of the cameras are pretty poor at night. You pretty much won't be able to read a license plate unless you're directly behind, sitting in traffic with your headlights shining on it. If you're going past someone or someone hits you and speeds off, you probably won't be able to make out the license plate. And is that a problem? Maybe. I don't know, I'm undecided. I do have other dash cams which perform much better at night, and I think it might be an issue. It really comes down to you and how important you think it is, but it's something to take into account. Now, there is one area where the DrivePro 100 does better than the DrivePro 200. That's the G sensor. The G sensor in the DrivePro 200 just goes off. Pretty much, it's got a mind of its own. Every time you go over a bump, beep, 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 emergency recording. And I've read this in comments on Amazon reviews and such like, that the DrivePro 200 has that issue. And sure enough, when I had them side by side, the DrivePro 200 was always triggering the emergency recording. DrivePro 100, only if I really hit like a hard bump that it would trigger. Even if I set this to low, medium, high G sensor, it would just go off pretty much always. So considering that's a big selling point of these cameras, it could be an issue. For me, the G sensor, yeah, it's cool and it's useful, but I don't know, if you've got a big enough micro SD card in there, you're going to have so much footage that it's probably not going to be an issue, and you can always press the red button to lock the file if you want. So for me personally, it's not an issue, but it is a problem with the DrivePro 200. Now, I have heard of some people sending them back, getting a replacement that's performed better, but don't know, you have to try that yourself. Now, when it comes to the Wi-Fi, which is only on the DrivePro 200, which is my preferred camera, this thing is amazing. I originally thought, yeah, that would be useful, that would be cool, but not that bothered. It's so superb. When you pair this with your phone, you can stream the live video, and it's, you know, it's literally live. There's no lag like on the GoPro, which is another camera I have, and you can stream back videos it's recorded. And again, there's no lag. The app is really nice to use. It's very simple. Again, it's much better than the GoPro application. And to be honest, the Wi-Fi is amazing on this, so a lot better than I expected. The only thing to consider with the Wi-Fi is, realistically, how often are you going to be reviewing the footage on this? Now, if you're a race car driver, yeah, maybe you're going to review it after every lap or every race. But if you're the average consumer, just puts this in their car to record if there's a crash or something like that, you're probably not going to be reviewing the footage that often. So although it's really well done and it works very well and it's kind of cool, I don't know how often you'd really use it. But you know, the difference in the price of the DrivePro 100 and the 200, it's not that much. So get the one with the Wi-Fi. So what can I say? This is the first time I've used or tested a Transcend dash cam. Both cams did well. They turn on with the car, they turn off with the car. They record to the micro SD, didn't have any missing footage or anything like that. So, you know, they both work as expected. They are a little bit bulkier than I would like. I can live with it because I have a tinted dash, but if I didn't, I would probably be a little bit worried that someone's going to spot this and maybe try and steal it or something like that. I prefer the mount for the Transcend compared to every other dash cam I've had before. Usually they only have an up and down movement or a left and right. It's not really the full 360 ball movement that you get on the Transcend. So in terms of the mount, I think they've done really well. Now you might be thinking, oh, how often do you have to adjust it? Probably not that often. Well, you might be surprised. Sometimes you might want a little bit more road, or you might want a little bit more sky. You might want more to the side. It really depends. You know, your preference could change over the year, or depending on the time of year or where you're driving. So it's very useful to have that full 360 ball movement on the mount. So overall, like I said, the DrivePro 200 is my choice, and that's the one that I would recommend you buy if you're considering either of these. There are other cameras on the market which have better night performance, but in terms of everything else, the Transcend is really quite stunning. The screen is amazing, the Wi-Fi works amazing, picture quality during the day, very good. Everything just works really well, convenient button on the side. They really thought this through, you know, this isn't just something they've slapped together together. They've put a lot of thought into this. The only thing that would really bug me is the night performance. Otherwise, I would say this is one of my favourite, if not my favourite, dash cam. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or feedback, put it in the comments section below, and please remember to give a thumbs up and subscribe because it really helps my channel. And thank you to Transcend for lending me these cameras to review.